Hi there, I'm Mrs. Ferris from Wood Library and welcome to our November edition of Crafter School Special at Home. Today we're going to be doing bleeding tissue paper art. If you signed up for a materials bag, well, let's see what you need for today. I'm going to dump it out. In your bag, you'd find 2 pieces of watercolor paper. It's a heavy cardstock paper. You'll find a jumbo white crayon, a bottle, a spray bottle that you're going to fill with water, a package of tissue paper squares, and a piece of a table cover or tablecloth. This is to put down on your work surface so that you're not going to get anything messed up when we're doing this project. I do want to warn you, this kind of tissue paper isn't the kind you would put in when you're wrapping a present. This is called bleeding tissue paper, and it's called that because the colors bleed when they're wet. So some recommendations: make sure you're covering the area where you're working. You may even want to put on an old t-shirt or an art smock so that while you're doing this you don't get any of the dye on you. Be prepared that your fingers may turn a little bit of a different color. It did wash out though. I did my project yesterday and it came out okay. So those are some things to keep in mind. All right, so let's get started. The first thing you're going to want to do is fill your bottle with water and then set it off to one side. And I've already done that, so I'm going to just stick that aside. So the next thing you're going to want to do is to color on your paper. Now you may say, that's white paper, and Mrs. Ferris, you gave me a white crayon. Well, this is a project that's very much like when you decorate eggs at Easter time. When you get an egg decorating kit, it always comes with a crayon. It might be a clear wax crayon or it might be a white one, and you draw a design or some kind of image on your egg, and then you take your egg and dip it into the dye, and when you pull it out, the dye has covered the whole surface of the eggshell except where you drew with the white crayon or the wax crayon. And that's exactly what we're going to do today. So think a little bit about what you'd like to have on your paper. What would you like to do an art project on? I think I'm going to draw some leaves on mine so I can use it in the fall. You might want to make a design of some sort. You might want to write your name or a word that you like you could put down love. Whatever it is that you're going to do though, remember when you're drawing to press really hard with your crayon because you want to have as much wax on the paper to resist the dye so that your image will show through. Does that make sense? It does to me. So remember, press hard. That's why I gave you a jumbo crayon. It's not that I think you're a baby, it's just that this one you can really grab onto and press hard and you'll get a thicker line. So I'm going to draw an image on my paper, and it doesn't matter which side you use. If you look at your paper, you might see that one has a little bit more texture to it than the other side. It really doesn't matter which one you're going to do. If you were painting, it might, but for this project you can use either side. So I'm going to start doing mine. We'll probably do a little video magic here and fast forward through it. Or you can stop the video right now while you're drawing whatever it is that you're going to be making an art project of, and then click to go ahead with the video once you've finished. So here we go. Remember, press hard. The idea is to have the wax really firmly on your paper. And it's kind of interesting doing this because you can't really see where you're drawing, so it may be a surprise when you're finished. You can sometimes see it though. If you tilt your paper just the right way in the light, you can see where you've drawn. You may even want to draw your image so it kind of tumbles off the edge of the paper. I always like that because then it doesn't look like it's all being framed in by the edges of your paper. Okay, I think I'm done. Now you can't see it. I don't even know if I tilt it this way. Maybe a little bit like that you can see that I've got a bunch of leaves on there. So then what I'm going to do to get ready is I'm going to set my paper down, make sure I'm on the table cover, and I used a different table cover than I gave you. I didn't use a white one here because I want you to be able to see what I'm doing, so that's why I went for another background. Two other things you might want to have handy would be some paper towel, because this does get messy and you might want to wipe your fingers or blot up any water, clear around yourself. And another thing that's sometimes fun to use would be a paintbrush, because it gives you a way to really get the water evenly on your paper. And also, once you stick down your tissue paper squares, you can press with the brush. You can even have your brush be a little wet, but press down to make sure that the tissue paper is touching the paper, because if it isn't touching the paper, it's not going to transfer the dye. So, are we ready to get creative, I guess I'd say? I dumped my tissue paper into a bowl so it was easy for me to use. I'm going to add a little bit more because I used up a bunch of the colors when I was doing it the other day. And I want to be sure that I have some variety. I really liked the package of paper that I got. It has a lot of very dark colors in it that are very vibrant. Some of them that you'll find in your package, you might find white, you might find a cream, or even a very light purple. Those don't work as well in transferring on here, but you can use them if you like. But I gave you lots of options. There's enough tissue paper in here for you to easily do both pieces of your paper and even have some left over. So I'm going to stick the rest of these aside because I don't want them to get wet. So let's see, I want to be sure you can see what I'm doing. I'll move my paper towel over a little bit. So now that you've got your bottle with water, you might want to test it out first because those were brand new bottles that I gave you, and you want to be sure that they've got the water all primed to go out through the spritzer part. So you may want to just practice it and see that it's working. And then you're going to spritz your paper. And you want your paper to be fairly wet. You may want to just start in the center and put your tissue paper down there and then spritz some more. You're going to be doing that throughout the whole project. So then take some of the tissue paper and apply it right down on your watercolor paper. And I can already see, let me show you, that it's already trying to bleed out from underneath it. So make sure that it's touching, and that's why I say have some paper towel around you. That's another reason why you can use this brush to make sure that it's pressed down all the way, smooth it out. And I would recommend overlapping your colors. And then just keep going and work your way around outside. I like not having two of the same color right next to each other. So that's why I like to kind of ruffle through my colors of tissue paper to see what might look good together. And when you overlap them, they'll sometimes pick up some of the other color that's their neighbor. And whenever you think you need a little more water on there, spritz it on. And if your tissue paper got a little crinkled or bent when it was in the plastic bag that I sent with you, it'll clear right out, sit right down once you wet it. So don't worry about any wrinkles. I think that purple is really nice. You can press it down with your fingers, but I'll warn you, you'll wind up with colored fingers. But if you don't mind, and Mom or Dad don't mind, it's okay with me. And when you start getting close to the edge, it's okay to go over the edge unless you wanted to make some sort of frame for your picture. Really like having them extend over so that there isn't any beginning or end to it. See, I've got a little bit of color on my finger. The brown is a real rich one too when you put that on. But just keep looking around and see what color you haven't used in this area and add that one in. It's most important to get the wet underneath so that it can bleed into the paper. How is yours looking? I almost think I need to go and get some more water in my bottle, but we'll make do. You should be just about to the point where you've got your whole paper covered. Am I right? 'Cause mine's just about done. So I need some red there. I can put some red on there. Maybe some pink here. Lost one. And this is probably one of those projects that it's hard to tell when you're done, but pretty much most all of my paper is covered. So I think I am just about done. And then comes the not so interesting part, but you have to let it dry. And you might want to go and have a snack, or maybe have dinner and just let it dry. I hope you're not right where you would be eating dinner, but let it dry. If you need to, you can move your piece just by lifting up your table cover and taking it someplace where it'll be out of the way. But you want to let it dry, and you want to let it dry by itself. I had thought at one time about suggesting you could use a hairdryer, but if you use a hairdryer, it's liable to blow your pieces of tissue paper away, and you don't want to do that yet. So just let it sit and dry, and I'll be back in a bit when mine is dry, and then we'll do the big reveal to see what it turns out like. All right? So I'll see you in a while. I'm back, and I think it's time for the big reveal. Before I let it just settle in, I did spray it one more time to make sure that it was really, really wet, and I kind of pressed down on it with my paper towel, but I'm pretty sure it's ready. And the way you can tell whether it's ready is you notice that the pieces of tissue paper are starting to lift off of your piece of watercolor paper. That means that they are drying out. Your piece of watercolor paper may still be a little damp, but I think these will all come off. So what you can do is lift it up, and some of them will just fall right off. Some you may have to help a little bit, but nope. They all came off, and there is my piece of artwork. It's my tissue paper masterpiece. I wonder what yours would look like, so please take a picture of it and send it to me in an email. And I would love to be able to put up a little gallery of all of our tissue paper art. If you look closely, you can still see where I drew my leaves. And what I can do with this now is I could use it as a placemat. I could just put some clear contact paper on it and have it in front of people for their Thanksgiving dinner. I could also cut it into pieces. I could use it as the front of a birthday card or a greeting card. Or I could cut it up and again coat it with some contact paper and use it as a coaster for any wet drinks that might be around the house. So I hope you'll have fun with it. It's a real easy project. If you ever want to do it again and you need some more tissue paper, I have lots more, so I'll be happy to give you some. But I hope you enjoyed it. We hope we'll see you next month too. Our theme for the December program is going to be Deck the Halls. We're going to be making some Christmas ornaments. So I hope I'll see you then. Thanks for joining us. Bye-bye.